Weight loss after 40. How do we do this?
What they're consuming first is a big factor. I want you to get between 135 to 150 protein every single day for the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then we monitor that and see. And then you build success around that too. And it's like, okay, how do you feel about this? Do you have a better grasp on how much protein you should be consuming? Then maybe I'll go to something, let's just track your overall calorie content for the day. With the protein before we then start micromanaging the carbs and fats.
So this is where most people become paralyzed because they'll watch one podcast, they'll give them the whole blueprint, and they try to do the whole blueprint. In a trainer and client interaction, that blueprint was 6 months.
Yeah.
If you guys are watching this, like you're getting some of these tips, don't apply all the tips.
Yes.
Apply one tip, do it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, execute it as best as you possibly can. Write all the adversities, write your measurements down, things you could have changed. And then you're like, could I add one more of Byron's tips into this mix?
Yes.
I think that's when you do it. I'm gonna dive into this maintenance side because it's overlooked. Why is eating enough to maintain your weight so beneficial in their program?
It's so big for me because most of our lives should be spent at maintenance. Being in a caloric deficit is difficult on the body. It affects a lot of aspects, your hormones, your mood. I mean, dieting too long isn't good.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to them because there's not a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
So you're trying to tell me, bro, you just added more calories and I lost weight?
Yeah.
But I thought I need to be in a caloric deficit.
Hormone pound. Yeah. Like, what are the pros on deficits? And what are some of like the stuff that no one talks about, the cons on deficits? If you are in the journey of trying to lose weight and you're on your 20s, it might not be that bad. But once you start going into 30s or even 40s, it's like the whole game has shifted. Today, I got my friend Byron here with me. He's an IFBB Pro Master. He's been a personal trainer for 22 years. He's also here in Las Vegas, and he's helped hundreds of clients' lives lose weight, get healthier, all of the above. Today, we're going to have a conversation that is a widely discussed topic on how to lose weight when you're over 40, because it becomes a little bit more challenging. And today, we're going to have a conversation around that. And while I'm not 40 yet, right, I wanted to get someone that's 40 plus, that's super jacked, that's going to have a lot more credibility on understanding what this is. But I do deal with a lot of 40s, but I wanted to get you in here because I've been stalking you on the IGs a little bit. I was like, this guy's fit.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Dude, thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm truly grateful to be here, honestly.
Dude, for sure, man. I'm excited we got to meet. So every trainer, I feel like there's this perception that we're superheroes, right? But behind every superhero, there's an origin story behind it. Like, we didn't just turn out like this. I'd love to kind of how you became a trainer.
I've been active my whole life and was blessed to be able to go to college and play football. And so when I was receiving my degree in kinesiology and a minor in nutrition, then some things started to make sense to me. And I started looking at my family history. My father had a heart attack when he was 41. So,
Wow. Okay.
I was like 15, 16 at the time. Didn't really understand the magnitude of that. He made it through that. But then he became a really bad diabetic. And so then I started putting two and two together. Like, here I am with this kinesiology degree, which is exercise science, movement, nutrition. And my father really was slowing down. And I started to realize, like, once I got my degree, is like a lot of these things were due to his habits.
Right.
And so I felt if I had the knowledge, I should do better by myself first and foremost, because you got to take care of yourself first. And then I was actually, my undergrad was physical therapy and chiropractor. Yeah. And the therapy clinics I worked in gave me some leeway to really push people. And I was like, wow, I kind of enjoy this, from being an athlete. Now I get to help people get back on their feet and move. And so then I was like, well, maybe I should become a personal trainer where I can help more people and get them to see the benefits of their health and fitness and nutrition, where it's something I really couldn't impart in just my father alone. I mean, I've lost multiple uncles to diabetes, heart issues and stuff. And I realized most of those things in my family was lack of knowledge, number one, and lack of activity and poor habits. And I literally felt that if I had this knowledge and I don't use it for myself and help give it to others, then I was doing myself a disservice. And then it just became my passion, bro.
Yeah.
Like giving the gift of health, something I gave to myself, and being able to give that to others made me truly happy. And I didn't really see it as a job because
Right.
I get to go to work and do what I enjoy doing every single day.
Gosh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like a lot of the painful experiences that we have is what becomes what we do now,
Yeah.
right? And it's so ideal that you talked about your father at 41 getting that heart attack, and we're talking about people at their 40s.
hmm
Like, why do you think just men in general struggle to lose weight, or they start finding themselves gaining weight kind of around this like from 35 to 45? I
hmm
feel like is where men typically come to me eventually,
Yes.
and they're like, okay, I need help. Why do you think it's kind of this age
Well, I think it
level?
comes down, we start having families, then you have life, you have
Mhm.
stress, and it's providing for the family. And
Mhm.
then you typically put yourself on the back burner because now we're providing for the
Mhm.
family. So then our habits and activity level then declines as well, because then typically then the rest of your friends and associates are slowing down because they're in the same boat. So
Right.
then I think it leads to that, and it becomes more about living for your family instead of learning to live for yourself and setting an example for your family.
Right.
So I feel that's my biggest, what I've seen the most with men in our age group is just,
Mhm.
I don't have time. I got to provide for my family. I was like, but if you're no longer here,
Yeah,
then who's going to provide for them?
exactly.
Because the longer you can be here, the better off to them you are.
Mhm.
So it's getting them to then shift their mindset of their importance. Yes, you can provide all this material things, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, they want you around more than anything else. Like that's
Exactly.
the key. Like, don't get it twisted. When I was working physical therapy, and one of my clients, he hated that I stretched him, but he would
Mhm.
bring his son into the physical therapy office, and I looked over, I said, that little 8-year-old boy wants his father to be able to run around with him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can run and jump like a gazelle,
Yeah.
but the rate you're going, if you don't improve and get healthier with your knee, you're not going to be able to run with that kid. And that kid adores you.
Yeah.
And it made it personal. After that, he stepped up and he worked hard every single day.
That's so good.
Because I made it
Yeah.
personal and real for him. Like, bro, I don't want to be stretching you either.
Yeah.
If I had it my way, you wouldn't be here. But at the rate you're going, you're not going to improve.
Mhm.
Insurance is only going to give you 12 sessions.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be out there on your own with a limp or not be able to move. Your son's only going to get bigger, stronger, faster, going to want his father to be able to keep up
Yeah.
with him. I said, so I made it personal for him. I was
Right.
like, look here, bro. I just finished college.
Yeah.
I can run like all outdoors. I can jump. I'm athletic,
Yeah.
explosive. If you don't take care of yourself right now, you're not going to be around to see that young man grow up.
Yeah.
And his mood changed, Royce, after that day with me.
Yeah.
And so then I found that I can have an impact on people's lives. And I was like, well, if you have this knowledge, then use it. And if it's
Yeah.
your passion.
I feel the compassion and from just that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when you were a kid when your dad got that heart attack? What was that like?
I didn't really understand what was going on, because
Yeah.
I am a teenager. I'm athletic.
Yeah.
My father and I used to play basketball in my backyard with
Mhm.
my friends all the time. And he was kind of like my Superman,
Yeah.
So then when you see your Superman take a blow, you're like, oh, man, what's going on?
Right.
And to fast forward on that story, my father passed at 55 due to complications of diabetes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I lost my father when,
It's
I'm in my
young,
my late 20s
yeah.
due to his choices and habits. And so I really saw the decline of someone I
Yeah.
thought that was so strong,
Yeah.
yet his nutrition habits or nutrition in our home wasn't that good because
Yeah.
we were poor. We didn't have that much.
Yeah.
He became less active. Maybe life got the best of him. I could see him kind of being down, a little more depressed.
Mhm.
I'm sure it was tough for him to keep up with someone like me who had been running since I was 2 years old. And so
Mhm.
now I'm in the gym and working out at 16 years old. And even though sports training wasn't as big back in the 90s, I was
Mhm.
already lifting weights and had a gym membership for my 16th birthday. So I was serious about this. And so
Yeah.
I think he saw that gap in life, but then also saw my Superman not being super anymore.
Mm.
And so then that really hit home. But not only did I see it with my father, I saw it with my Uncle Bubba. I saw it
Yeah.
with my Uncle Gene. I had multiple family members that I'm seeing this, these strong men. Then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
when they get into their 40s and 50s,
Mhm.
their health declining drastically. and many of them leaving this earth very early.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't want to be that.
Oh, man.
And if I can help others, what better way? But first I had to make sure I took care of myself,
Yeah.
and then I can help others.
I'll go into these sessions with my clients, and then they'll have a block point where they're like, I can't do it anymore. And then I tap into this different version of me where I'm hard on them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just shift the mood really, really quickly. And they get kind of shocked. And I almost have to apologize because a lot of times I'm just like, listen, I'm passionate about this because of what happened to my cousins.
Exactly.
What happened to my grandparents.
Yes.
And I wish someone was there to tell them what I'm telling you right now, right? I'm hard on you because I know it happened to me.
Yes.
Right. And I think there's someone in your family that's going to experience that. And if we can prevent that right now, like that's where my passion's coming from. And I think a lot of times the clients with the trainers, they don't quite know where this energy is coming from, but it's coming from that. It's coming from your father, like just leaving you such an early age. I think 55 is super
early.
Yeah. So it's
really early. I'll be honest. I mean, that's very early.
Yeah.
It was a lot to manage. I mean, I wasn't naive. I saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
But just because I saw it didn't mean it made it easier.
Yeah.
It was still hard, but I knew it was coming. And it was literally due to lifestyle habits and a lack of activity, poor nutrition, and not understanding the magnitude of where his trajectory was.
What are your thoughts around metabolism and age? There's a lot of clients that come in and it's like, I'm getting older. My metabolism is getting slower.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, many of us are taught to believe that our metabolism slows down a lot. Now we have research and studies showing it doesn't slow down as much as we think. You know what slows down? We do. And being a very practical person, I get it why we slow down.
Right.
If you've been, you're in your 50s now, you've been doing your job for 30 years, you've raised your kids, you get a little tired and worn down, and then your activity level tends to decrease compared to your 13, 14-year-old son who's running around. If we're just making up number steps, he could get 16, 17,000 steps in a day. An older gentleman who maybe was working, he was getting 8,000 steps. Now he's close to retiring. He's only getting 2,000 steps. That's a huge decrease in activity.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden, I think we come to a point where I feel I deserve certain things as well.
Right.
So if I want to have a burger and fries or drink multiple times a week, well, damn it, I paid my dues. I should be able to.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be context. And then how much of that are you consuming? And then I'll be honest with you, Royce, I think a lot of us give in to societal norms and pressure. Right. Like, well, I'm getting 40. This is just the way thing goes. I personally don't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
I obviously know I can't compete with my 24-year-old nephew, but I can give him a good run for his money. And just because I'm 47, I'm not just going to roll over. Because I've been blessed to put myself in an environment where, like, I see my business partner, who's exactly 10 years older than me, is maybe 10 years and 13 days, honestly, because we're both born in January. He's 57, built just like me. And I've seen that man continue to drive and get better and better and better. So I have no reason to believe that I can't do the same thing and then help others do that as well.
I love that.
And my thing is be an outlier.
Yeah.
Well, I run with the pack of sheep. Like, nah, I want to be over here. Like, I'll be honest. So then I try to impart with my male clients, like, okay, I know you're just getting started. Let's crawl, and then we can walk, and then we can sprint, and build habits that fit your lifestyle and things that you can accomplish. Because I'm a big believer, many of us bite off too much, too fast. Whereas I believe if we start a little smaller and slower and you get some wins, that builds confidence.
Yes.
When people talk to me, they go, well, you're so confident. It's like, yeah, because I've done this for a while. I should be.
Yeah. It's from the competence and the practice that you've been doing.
You don't think LeBron James is confident when you give him the ball to take that last shot, he's going to make it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, why are you giving it to him? So then when someone talks to me, I go, yes, I believe I can do this. And I believe I can help you as well.
Right.
Is it going to take time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, I've been training 22 years, but I've been in the gym since I was 13, 14 years old. Not the best habits. I didn't know what I was doing. But there's a lot of time under tension.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty confident about what I can do for myself and what I can help impart on you if you're patient enough to work through this and build habits that work with your lifestyle.
I love this. So guys, if you're listening to this really, really quickly, when we were just talking about age and metabolism, he's completely disconnected it. He's disconnected it in a way where it's activity. It's activity is what's determining your metabolism, not your age. Because you can probably get a lot more than most people because of the amount of activity that you do.
Yes.
And that's like the underlining thing. I feel like we have to break a lot of limits for people that are at least in the 40s and they're gaining the weight. Some of these underlining beliefs is what's preventing them from losing the 10, 20, 30 pounds. They think age and metabolism are connected, but there's so much more connections with how they're moving, the activity they're doing. And the way you can do that is just visit yourself in the past when you were fitter and ask yourself, what were you doing?
What were you doing, man?
Right?
And let's be clear. I don't want to discredit hormones. They do play a role. They are small roadblocks, but my mind run through those damn things.
Yeah.
Put a roadblock in front of me. Run over it. Or why give in to what everyone else is doing?
I love it.
Do you want to be like everyone else, or you want to be an outlier? You want to be different?
That's one of my affirmations, by the way. F the bell curve.
Yeah.
Become an outlier.
Yeah.
Right. I think
so I'm honest. I do understand these are obstacles for people, but I believe it comes down to your mindset and not giving into that. And then realizing there is a way. There are people out here thriving. They're not unicorns. They're not people who are, yes, genetics do play a role, but then pay attention to what it is they're doing.
Yeah.
And like you made a great point. What is it that you used to do and your habits that led to you being a more fit, more active person in the past? Now, I understand you can't be like that all the time, but then I'll tell people, what is it that Royce can do? It's not about what is Byron doing.
Yeah.
What can Royce give himself consistently to build habits? Because the comparison game is the thief of joy.
It is.
So find what you can and can do. I like to sprint, run, and jump. If you like to go ride bikes, bro, pedal your life away.
Yeah.
If that's what you enjoy. If you like to swim, weights may not be your thing. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I believe you should for overall bone density, muscle mass, and as you age and balance and coordination. But you don't need to do it 5 days a week like I do. If 2 days is all that you're willing to give yourself, then make it the 2 best days of your damn life.
Right. So good.
Like, don't overcomplicate it.
Okay. You've been touching up on habits, and habits are essential to building the body that you want. What are typically the things that you see in terms of differences? Men in their 40s that are really good shape, and then men in their 40s that are not in good shape. Like, what are like the two different habits?
I think sometimes our nutrition gets worse as we get older.
Okay, so nutrition side. Okay.
Nutrition is big for most people. That's where a lot of people struggle. And they don't know where to start or where to go, or they think it has to be this all or nothing approach.
Okay.
And instead of trying to find something that fits their lifestyle that's going to be sustainable. Okay. So a lot of times I'll ask clients or even people when I'm out talking to them was like, okay, the way that you eat, whatever diet or fad you're following, do you see yourself being able to do that 3 years from now? Because if not, then that's not sustainability. Yeah. And it's not living. And does it allow you some of that middle ground? This all or nothing approach does not work well for most of us. Yeah. So I normally see people trying to limit certain whatever things they feel that they struggle with, not realizing that every macronutrient plays a part, just like micronutrients do as well. So it's learning to be able to find that balance of when whatever goal you're trying to accomplish at that time, where people typically they want, it's all or nothing. I want results right now. It's like, well, sir, the 40 pounds you gained, you didn't just gain that right now. Right. That took some time, bro. Like, so it's going to take some time to get it off as well. But then on the front side of that, then on the back side, do you have a plan? Yeah. What happens after you come off that diet? Because that's where most diets fail. Right. Because people don't have a plan. They're just in the moment. They're caught up in this. And I get it. Execute this phase, but then also know when you come out of one phase, there should be another phase to keep you sustainable in where you are. So the nutrition, in my opinion, is the biggest part because you get on social media or podcasts, you hear this is bad. I mean, we can't eat or drink anything these days. I mean, everything is bad. You drink water, this chemical, that chemical. It's like, it's paralysis by analysis. So people are like, I don't know what to eat, so I just eat whatever I want. Yeah. because it's too much to overthink it and overcomplicate it. And then there's someone to back or diet tribe for anything that people want to believe in, let's just be honest, or attach their habits to.
Okay, cool.
But then is it sustainable is what I ask all people.
That's so good. Yeah, I think if you can't do it every day, it's not worth doing. So,
And, I think one thing I didn't touch on, I prefer to impart like healthy habits for people is like, how's your overall health? Because you can look like someone like me. I look like a Ferrari on the outside, but maybe I don't run like one.
Right.
Because you're not taking care of your blood pressure, your cholesterol, making sure you're not diabetic, keeping your visceral fat low. Those are all important as well. I think a lot of times when someone sees someone like me, like all he cares about is aesthetics. Like, don't get me wrong. I like to look a certain way. But the one thing I value the most, because I have a family history of XYZ, is taking care of my health first and foremost.
Yeah. The blood panels.
Yeah. So what are you intaking or partaking into your body plays a major role in how you perform as well as how you perform, also how you look. Okay. So fueling your body properly then allows you to run at a very high level as well.
Yeah. Hey guys, we are finally accepting students in our Weight Loss Academy. In this program, we are teaching you the skill set, the mindset, the tool sets to be able to not only lose weight over the next 12 weeks, but keep it off for a lifetime. If you find yourself struggling to shed pounds or you're regaining the weight after dieting, this academy is designed for you. Now, click on the show notes below so you can join our wait list and you will be the first to know when our curriculum begins. Now, back to the show. Peace. Yeah, okay. Well, so I want to go back just on the nutrition side because there's so much things that are paralyzing.
Yes.
And I want you to just kind of just picture someone 20, 30 pounds going, I'm going to you.
Yes.
I'm talking to Mr. Byron over here. What are some of the first things you try to shift in terms of their nutrition? Some like low level lifts for them.
So what I try to do is ask them, do they understand what they're consuming?
Okay.
So I'll have someone maybe track just to get an idea for themselves what it is they're consuming and where their calories are coming from. What are your nutritional habits? Are you someone who eats, meals consistently? Or are you kind of yo-yo all over the place? How often do you consume alcohol? How much rest and recovery you get? Because that plays a huge factor with your hormone levels, your hunger hormones as well, whether you're fatigued or you don't get enough rest. So I ask them questions that are about their life because then you can find out a lot what people have going on. Oh, I'm always running around and I never really have time to eat. It's like, well, okay, now I know what part of your problem is. You don't make it a priority. So if your nutrition is never a priority, then you're probably not going to stop and pay attention to it. It's always just kind of grab and go. So I have people track what they consume, foods, all their liquids, how much water are you consuming, and then try to educate them on what are the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fats. And typically, you've been doing this long enough, most people don't consume enough protein. They think they do. But then when you ask them, it's like, oh, I had a 3-ounce chicken breast. So it's like, well, that's cool. You had about like 15 grams of protein.
Yeah.
And you're a 180-pound male. Like, well, I can do some simple math off the top of my head. If you're only doing that a couple times a day, you're probably under 100 grams of protein. So then this is why you're probably over snacking because protein is very satiating and filling. Why you're probably losing muscle mass, your activity levels decline, you're not sleeping well. Like then it starts to all add up.
Yeah.
Really quick. And they're like, oh, I'm like, well, yeah, there's a reason why you're in the place that you are.
Yeah.
But I believe it's helping people understand nutrition. What they're consuming first is a big factor because most people have no clue.
I know, which is shocking to me. But I mean, it makes sense now because like what we've experienced in our life with your father and with my cousins, with my family members as well, we just naturally get involved. We're like, oh, what is a carb? What is a protein? And sometimes the very first thing is awareness. Yeah. Awareness is like medicine. And sometimes they're just not unaware. I was like, oh, I just drink alcohol. Oh, I just have Cheerios in the morning. Like, where's your protein? Yeah. Right? And it's like,
where's your balance?
Yeah.
And your food and your meal plan. It's like, oh, I mean, I hear this all the time. I drink clear alcohol. I was like, well, all alcohol is 7 calories per gram. Last time I checked. Yeah. Whether it's clear, dark.
And it's still poison in the body.
It still
a little bit.
Does not really do much for us.
Yeah.
But in their mind, they've justified it until I explained to them, like, well, all alcohol is 7 calories per gram.
Mhm.
So for every gram you consume, you get 7 calories, whether it's dark or clear.
Right.
And then you can add more to it by adding juices and stuff like that,
Sugars.
and sugars.
Yeah.
That does escalate it. But I only drink clear alcohol. It's like still alcohol.
Mhm.
There's no benefits to it for your body.
Yeah.
It lowers your blood sugar, then it spikes it, which is why it makes most of us want to overeat when we drink. I don't know about you, but when
Yeah.
I did drink, I rarely ever made a great decision when it came to food.
That's so good. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never did.
Yeah. So those are like the first two things. I think if you address sleep and then you address their protein needs, it gets a lot easier.
It's a lot easier.
So what do you change after sleep and the protein needs?
So then we start figuring out how or what foods they like to consume. So you've addressed the protein needs and rest and recovery.
Mhm.
And then we try to find out, what do you prefer, whether it's carbs or fats, based on whatever your current goal is
Mhm.
and where your preference is. And then understanding, honestly, what a carbohydrate is and what a fat is.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't understand those things as well.
Right.
And then you have to really, Royce, ask really direct questions. People will say, I like to consume vegetables. Okay. What
Yeah.
types of vegetables?
Right.
And they tell you, what do you put on them?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, you're putting butter on them. You put in olive oil.
Yeah.
I don't know
Nothing.
about you, but broccoli and cheese is much
Yeah.
better than regular broccoli, right?
Right.
So you have to ask very definitive questions, because most people, they don't know. It's just lack of awareness. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I had more veggies when I went out the other night. So you had Brussels sprouts. Were they steamed or were they
They were
sauteed
butter.
in whatever?
Yeah.
Because Brussels sprouts are okay,
Yeah.
but the balsamic glazed fried Brussels sprouts are much better tasting. I'm just being honest. And I enjoy nutrient-dense food, but
Yeah.
I would rather have those if I could eat them every single day.
Yeah.
And so then it's asking direct questions like, what are people consuming? What type of carbohydrates? What types of fats are you consuming? And then do you understand that even from a protein source, there's a difference between your ribeye and your filet to
Mhm.
your flank steak? Or a lot of people don't even know that when you go buy, all bread doesn't have the same carbohydrate content.
Right.
There's differences.
Yeah.
Because they've never read a nutrition label. So
Mhm.
then that gets them into understanding, okay, then you need to learn and look at a nutrition label and see what the contents of this is, because they're not always created equal.
Okay.
And just because something says one slice, maybe, I'm just making up numbers, 41 grams, you may weigh that slice and it could be 36, could be 48.
Yeah.
And so then that's where maybe sometimes for some people, which may be overkill,
Mhm.
but learning to measure your food so you can see exactly what a serving of something looks like.
Right.
It's like, oh, I had a handful of nuts.
Mhm.
Was that 28 grams? Because I know off the top of my head, that's a serving.
Yeah.
I don't know about your handful and my handful. Could be two
Yeah.
different handfuls. And that handful ranges
Yeah.
from day to day.
Mhm.
So it's getting down to being a little more meticulous about the things that they're
Mhm.
consuming.
Yeah.
So I drink coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. What type of coffee? With what in it?
Yeah.
From where? It's just coffee. Like,
Yeah.
well, no. There is
Yeah.
a difference, because you
Right.
could be consuming a lot of excessive calories from your liquid calories and not even think about it. I like juice.
Yeah.
Well, how much orange juice do you drink? Is it a serving, which is 8 ounces, which I
Mhm.
can tell you is about 25 to 30 grams of carbs because I've drank it before.
Yeah.
So now you're asking me why you're still hungry. We just had 2 servings of orange juice, which is 50 grams of carbs.
Mhm.
Maybe you could have fed yourself some oatmeal or some whole wheat toast, which would probably would have
Yeah.
held you a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then it's getting them to understand nutrient-dense foods and values, how that can then fuel their bodies longer. It's not to say
Okay.
that you can't have these things, but just know what's going into your bank account.
Right.
Or I like to look at food as carbs, proteins, and fats as managing your account.
Right. It is.
And then once you understand that, then it becomes a lot more valuable to you and brings a huge awareness.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're going over protein 1st,
Mhm.
how long do you test the athlete? Do you just go right into protein, change their carbs, add veggies? Do you do all that in a week, or like?
I think a lot of
how
that
long is
can be, sorry to mean to cut you off. I
No,
think
you're
that
good.
could be a little over consuming for people,
Yeah.
especially if they're just getting into it.
Mhm.
I've taken on training.
Mhm.
Now he's asking me to get steps. I got to
Yeah.
get these many steps a day when I get off. I got to go do a little bit of cardio as well. So I like to focus small baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
Look here, Royce, for the next 2 weeks, we're just going to have you focus on getting enough protein consistently. And I'm just making up numbers. I want you to get between 135 to 150 protein every single day for the next 2 weeks. And then we
Yes.
monitor that and see. And then you build success around that. This day I got 80. These days I got 135, 140. So average, you're right around where you should be week 1.
Yeah.
Week 2 is like, okay, how do you feel about this? Do you have a better grasp on how much protein you should be consuming? The ways you're going to get that protein every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then maybe I'll go to something. Let's just track your overall calorie content for the day
Mm-hmm.
with the protein before we then start micromanaging the carbs and fats.
So
Based on the person, I try to find what's going to work and not overwhelm them right away, because
yeah,
it could be a little overwhelming with everything else that they got going on in their life.
100%.
Yo, bro, I'm running my business here. I got to get my kids to practice. I got my wife, I got to go see my mom. My best friends are coming in town. And you're like, you want me to track all my food and not drink and come to the gym? It could be like, whoa. So
Be
I
too
feel that
much,
if you
yeah.
break it down for people and realize this is a process,
Yeah.
the habits you and I have built didn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Even with my nutrition degree, it took me a long time to really understand things because, like everyone else, I still wanted to eat chicken fingers.
Right.
So I feel if you break it into small steps, maybe track the protein for 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
get a win there, get consistent with that of seeing what you're consuming. Then I'll say, okay, now let me know about how many calories you're taking in a day with that protein.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe add another step of, okay, now I want you to weigh yourself 7 days a week, and then
Yeah.
we'll take the average of that. And if we have that calorie count and the weight stayed around the same, so whatever you're consuming, you're probably right around your maintenance if you stayed the same weight for
Right.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you dropped weight, guess what? You're in a deficit.
Yeah.
If your weight went up,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a surplus. And then it kind of makes more sense to them instead of having them micromanage all these little things.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's also case by case. But I can tell you in my experience of 22 years, it's very rare someone comes in and picks it all up right away.
Yes. And I think this is where most people become paralyzed because they'll
Yes.
watch one podcast, they'll give them the whole blueprint and they
Mhm.
try to do the whole blueprint. But in a trainer and client interaction, that blueprint was 6 months.
Yeah.
That blueprint,
Yeah.
if they were really they're like type A people, maybe they can do it in 3 months.
Mhm.
So if you guys are watching this, like you're getting some of these tips, don't apply all the tips.
Yes.
Apply one tip, do it for 2 weeks,
Execute
3
it.
weeks, execute it as best as you possibly can.
Yes.
Write all the adversities, write your measurements
Mhm.
down, things you could have changed. And then you're
Yes.
like, could I add one more of Byron's tips into this mix?
Yes.
I think that's when you do it. It's very similar to just like, I want them to imagine if they were just like, I'm going to start squatting and they just throw all of the
Oh.
plates on, right? And
Yep.
I've seen this in the gym and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty sure this person's going to collapse.
Mhm.
It's the same in terms of nutrition. And I think the nutrition side can be almost more difficult than in the weight because you can see the weight, right?
I think it's hands down more difficult nutrition, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I would say in my experience, I've been able to get people really into lifting weights. It's nutrition because you only get an hour with them.
Yeah.
So if I train a client 3 times a week, that's 3 hours out of 168. There's 165 other hours. I have to hopefully believe that they're being honest and real with me, and we're gaining some trust. And my level of accountability or their accountability to me is going to actually hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So it's very tough. And then you throw in all the other outside factors, families, friends, social outings, emergencies. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but you go trauma and
Mhm.
habits. Like, I don't know about you, bro, but I grew up clean plate club.
Yeah.
We didn't have much, so you ate everything that's on your plate. That's very hard to break as you get older,
Yeah.
regardless of how well you do, because even to this day, I don't believe in wasting food, but I'm
Right.
also better at picking. So all those things play a huge factor. It's not just hitting macronutrients for people.
Mhm.
They have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you made a great point. It's like when you listen to someone's podcast, that may be over a 6-month thing, but we want to implement all that stuff now. It's not really fair to
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
You're not really doing yourself justice. So it's like small tools and tidbits, and then
Yeah.
you can add to that based on who you are and really getting to know who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to touch upon the 7 days and then taking the average.
Mhm.
because one of my biggest, especially guys that are fixated
Yes.
in the scale, they only measure once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, if you really want to be fixated on those numbers, you should do it every day, because the fluctuations are huge sometimes.
Huge.
And why 7 days and not every Friday?
It's going to show more consistency of your habits.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will show you if you are consistent with your habits.
Yeah.
Your sleep, your water, your sodium, your fiber. Did you
Mhm.
take a number 2? I mean, all these,
Yeah.
are you weighing at the same time every single day? So
Mhm.
all these consistencies need to be consistent.
Right.
And so by taking the average of 7 days, then you can see a trend on what days you're typically higher and lower,
Yeah.
even based on your activity level. I do know psychologically, for a lot of people, sometimes 7 days could be too much.
Yeah.
But I believe maybe just do it for like a month just to get an idea of what that looks like.
Right.
And even I have clients that then I will bring it down. Like, look here, Royce, if you're only comfortable doing it 3 days a week, just make sure those 3 days are consistent and the times that you do it are consistent.
Yes.
Because it is a lot of stress for a lot of people.
Yeah.
My own personal experience, once I got a coach and start prepping for shows, I never really weighed myself. But now I know what days I'm going to be higher and lower, regardless of what phase I'm in. And I can tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And I got 7 years of data on my phone in my notes where I track my weight every single day.
Mhm.
So I'm not attached to the scale.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make or break my day.
Mhm.
I know that when I wake up, I can tell you off the top of my head, on Sunday and Monday mornings, I'm heavier.
Yeah.
On Thursday mornings, I'm heavier because I don't train on Wednesdays. All I do is get steps and maybe cardio.
Mhm.
I have 7 years of data, so I'm not emotionally attached to that.
It's so good. I tell athletes all the time, it's very similar to like a relationship.
Yes.
If you're seeing someone once a week and you don't do any communication, you're not going to build a really, really good relationship with that. But over time, if you're spending time with them 3 times a week, and you're having like legitimate dialogue with it, it's like, okay, what does this mean? What should we do better? Like if you start treating it like a real relationship, eventually those numbers kind of lose its power. And then now you actually like understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my biggest concerns a lot of times is people just don't look at it enough, or they don't conversate enough with it, having dialogue with it. That's why it's so good to have a trainer.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
it's having a trainer, but also being open and honest with them.
Yeah.
Because we're not mind readers.
Right.
You know, like I can try to assume, but that's wrong, how you're feeling and what you're going through. I don't know everything, so I only know if you tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that can be a little scary for some people and vulnerable, but at some point to grow, we need to get vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because if you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, they say that's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're working with someone, the whole point at some point is to build trust and be vulnerable. Like, yo, this is where I'm struggling. Like I've had clients like, I just can't get on the scale every single day. All right, well, what works for you, Royce?
Yeah.
I think I can give you 3 days. Are you sure you can commit to that?
Yeah.
And are these 3 days? What are those 3 days?
Yes.
What are those times of those 3 days?
Mm-hmm.
If you can consistently give that to me because of X, Y, whatever reason that is, I don't need to know the reason. But if it's going to fit well with you, you're going to feel comfortable with it, then let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can execute that, then let's do it.
Yeah.
But I think it's learning to be vulnerable
Yeah.
as well and being open and honest.
Yeah. That's like one of the more challenging sides when someone comes in, they want to lose 30 pounds, but they never want to weigh in.
Yes. Well, how do we know where we're going if
How
we
do I
don't
know the
where we
program's
came
working?
from?
Yeah.
You know, like we have to have measurables.
Right.
Don't lie. I mean, okay, the scale is one measurable. You can take pictures. You can do circumference measurements. You can check body fat. You can see how the scale, how your clothes are fitting. Those are all signs, but these are all markers because sometimes the scale may not change, but you're down 2 sizes in clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had clients be still upset with me. I'm like, I'm so confused.
Yeah. So
you're in a 36 instead of a 38, but now you're attached to this number on the scale because they placed their self-worth to the scale, or even their health markers have gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
My cholesterol is down. My doctor's so happy. My blood pressure's in a better place. My A1C has dropped.
Yeah.
But I'm still like 200. I'm like, so we're just going to discard all these victories that you just had.
Yeah.
Because you're still so attached to this.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think they're attached to that?
I think it's because society has put a lot on it, and when you get into this, most people
Yeah.
only, I hate to say it, when you start training,
Yeah.
most people only really worry about the scale or
Yeah.
aesthetics. They don't realize all the other values
Right.
that go into and how this can enhance your life just in general.
It is. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest part, and it's kind of like a measuring stick. But if we look at most of those charts and scales, at me, 5'4", 175 pounds, I'm considered overweight,
Right.
but I'm right around 10% body fat.
Doesn't make
So
sense. Yeah.
doesn't
The BMI side.
the
too.
BMI side of it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. So then people assume that, like, technically I'm only supposed to be like 135, 140.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just even the term weight loss is contradicting for me
Yes.
because you can lose weight really easily
Mhm.
in the wrong ways.
You can lose weight and
Right.
be an unhealthier version of yourself.
Exactly, right? So it's for me it's they search weight loss,
Yeah.
but ultimately as a practitioner it's fat loss for me,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
if the weight starts to move down, sweet, but at the end of the day, the healthier version for them is always a little bit fat loss for me.
It's going to be mostly fat loss. I mean, you think about all the health markers that can be improved just from dropping fat.
Mhm.
Adipose tissue, number one. A lot of things that people don't understand or men don't get, which you see it in us,
Yeah.
the little pony cakes that a lot of us
Yeah.
tend to carry. Yes, that's adipose tissue, but there's also called something visceral fat. And
Right.
that's the fat around your organs. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem in our society. So men will get so then attached to the scales, like, okay, we need fat loss. We need to start shedding that adipose tissue, which will go first.
Yeah.
But then you need to continue down this path and sustain those habits so you can bring down your visceral fat as
Mhm.
well. Because the higher your visceral fat is, the higher your inflammation. The underlying metabolic issues, the more and more you will have
Mhm.
by having more fat around your organs. And when you think about it from a physiological standpoint, the body wants to put fat around the organs because it wants to protect you.
So good. Yeah.
We need arms and legs, yes.
Yeah.
But they're typically the first things to go. Like
Right.
my father, diabetic, amputated his
out.
leg,
Yeah.
his foot. Body's like, I
Yeah.
don't need this, so I'm going to keep protecting the vital organs that
Yeah.
need to run this system. Yeah, well, yeah, good, sir. You do need your leg, but
We can just take it out.
we can just take it out.
Right.
Blood's got to go all the way down there. Now
Yeah.
it doesn't have to anymore.
Yeah.
So I think the scale then defines a lot of people. And it's
Yeah.
sad
Yeah.
because it can make or break their day, bro.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've had hundreds of clients and I'm like, what do you mean you had PR here, here, here?
Mhm.
It's almost at the very beginning of the conversation, you almost want to disempower it.
Yes.
So it's like going into that conversation, it's like, perfect. What else? What other metrics are we going to measure?
Yes.
Because this is going to go down. It is going to go up. What are the other stuff? Do you have your blood panels with you?
Yes.
Right. So it's almost as important as the person navigating that's going to create. Because if we're celebrating the weight loss all the time,
Mhm.
it's gonna it's almost counterintuitive. So
Yes.
anytime I get a 10, 20, 30 pound weight loss, attached to the other variables are the other things too. It was like, this is your bench now. This is your
Yes.
deadlift now. This is your heart rate when it started, and this is
Mhm.
where it is now. And then they're like, oh, I don't even care about that number anymore then.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
So-
if you've improved all these other markers, I think sometimes it's just they don't know about these other markers.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
not
true.
until you present it to them, they're so enamored by the weight loss and go like, well, okay, that's great. You lost weight, but you also got stronger.
Yeah.
Your sleep is better. You're drinking more water. Your A1C. I mean, you go down the line of other things. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
I
You
didn't
have to
think about
expose it.
that. I was so worried about this. And then also these become a lot more meaningful because what happens then when you do get to your goal weight?
Mm-hmm.
Which then we
you go
see
right
it.
back up. Yeah.
You finished my sentence. That's what happens to a lot of people because everything's so attached to the scale. Then once they reach that mark,
Mhm.
like I said before, then they don't have a plan on the other side of that. And they don't have these other measurables because these were never important or part of this process as well. It's like, so then they go right back up.
Mhm.
A lot of
So
times
good.
they stop all these other habits that led to them being successful.
So good.
So everything that led to your success,
Mhm.
you just stop. It's like, okay, you earn $1 million one year. He's like, well, I'm not going to do all the other stuff I was doing last year to make $1 million again.
Yeah.
But then you get to the end of the next year, you're like, I don't have $1 million. Well, you stopped doing all the stuff that led to your
Yeah.
success. Like, I always say, like, I'm a very simple person, but a lot of this stuff, like, it really is simple. And I hate to dumb it down so much, but if it led to your success, wouldn't you keep doing that?
Right. Exactly.
You look at most people that are successful in any aspect of their life, they consistently do the same things that led to them being successful. I love sports
Exactly.
because they stand out more to us, and we all, a lot of, you think LeBron James stops training, isn't training as hard in his 20th year
Yeah.
compared to as he's Tom Brady. You go down all the greats, and there's a lot of athletes that do.
Hmm.
You take the person who runs his own business and he's been building it.
Consistently. Every
Consistently
day.
building,
Yeah.
building. And then once they get there, a lot of times, then they keep going.
Hmm.
Whereas in the weight loss or health and fitness, like we reach one go, oh, that's it.
Yeah. I made it.
I made it. Now what?
It's like, oh gosh.
I don't know. And then next thing you know, they either stop or they start slowing down a little bit. And I get it. Life happens, and moderation and balance and context, like it's tough to be always on.
Yeah.
But never lose sight of the core values that led, or the habits that led to you being very successful. And I feel that's where most of us fail, because they say 95% of diets are successful. The
Right.
reason why they fail is because people don't keep up the same habits, or with something unsustainable.
So what should they focus on as soon as they get to the goal? So like, I made it. What should I do now?
Well, you have to have a plan on the other side of that goal. So
Okay.
I'm going to go into my maintenance calories. I'm
Okay.
still going to keep my activity level at this.
Mhm.
Currently, I'm still going to get this amount of steps. I'm still going to commit this amount of time to the gym. I'm still going to consume this amount of water. Oh, that's right. When I was losing the weight, I was turning off Netflix and going to bed. It's like they reached their goal, and all of a sudden they're back to binge watching stuff and stand up super late and neglecting their sleep, their rest and recovery. You're like, well, you stopped all the habits that led to you being very successful. So having a plan on the other side of that. So what is your maintenance calories? We talk about fat loss because, let's just be honest, that's what most people normally come to you first. And then maybe revisit another goal.
Right.
Like we were talking about earlier. Okay, now you've had the fat loss. Okay, this is what happens with a lot of my clients. They'll train, they lose their fat, and they'll be like, so bro, how do I get my shoulders a little more like cats, like more rounds? It's like, well, that's going to require you to live at maintenance or a little bit of a surplus. We make an emphasis more on training your shoulders more and getting stronger. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of like that look.
Yeah.
You know that split on your quads? Like, how do I get that?
Yeah.
Well, now we make an emphasis on training your quads more, or maybe add an exercise to it that's more of a quad dominant exercise. And you find what it is that they want to look like,
Right.
or what they want to build, or what's important to them. And I think then that can send them in the right direction.
So good. So I want to dive into this maintenance side because it's overlooked.
Very.
And I think there's think
Very.
there's so much value into
Yes.
it. Why is eating enough to maintain your weight so beneficial in their program? Right? Why is that so big for you?
Well, it's so big for me because most of our lives should be spent at maintenance.
Right.
Being in a caloric deficit is difficult on the body.
It's
It
tough.
affects a lot of aspects, your hormones, your mood. I mean, dieting too long isn't good.
Yeah.
Most of your life should be spent at maintenance, so your body is fed,
Yeah.
and it's like your gas, oil, and water in your car. It's always topped off, and you got enough consistently
Right.
to run efficiently, to be effective, to be a good functioning human being. But
Right.
it really gets missed because a lot of people just don't know about it. And the little bit of frustration that once you do add a little bit more carbs,
Yeah.
you're probably going to hold a little more water, which isn't fat gain. So if they see the scale go up 2 or 4 pounds, then they're not happy. Where you have to allow your body to regulate that, keep up those same habits. And then the word means what it says, maintenance.
Maintenance, yeah.
If you do what you're supposed to at maintenance, your weight will stabilize and stay right around the same, assuming you keep all the same habits.
So good.
Whereas it's really not talked about enough, because typically what happens, most people take an approach that's not sustainable.
Right.
So then they cut hard as hell
They lose all
and
the
then
weight.
lose all, and then they overeat fast as hell. Instead of
Yo-yo.
understanding, taking your time to drop
Mhm.
and then work your calories back up, or go into your new maintenance after you've lost. A lot of people don't understand that as well. They think that Byron thinks that his maintenance at 175 is the same when I'm show ready at 159. I'm a different vehicle. So it's like, if I can think off the top of my head, it's like taking an 18-wheeler needs this amount of gas. I downsized from an 18-wheeler to an F-250. The
Mhm.
F-250 doesn't need as much gas, you know, so
Yeah.
then people need to understand there is a difference between your bigger self and your smaller self. You go to your new maintenance, and then your new maintenance can build back up even higher after that. But you don't go from 175 to 159 and the same maintenance calories that held you at 175, they're not going to hold you at 159. You're going to gain weight.
Yes.
Because you were a bigger vehicle or a bigger vessel. So it's getting people to understand the value of what being in maintenance looks like and their actual new true maintenance, and then the habits that led to them being successful in their deficit. You keep those same habits in your maintenance phase as well, because most of your life should be at maintenance.
Guys, really quick, you need to like this because this is the stuff no one talks about in podcasts. What's initially found in advertisement, and I'm guilty of it. I advertise weight loss because that's what a lot of people need. But the more important program for me is actually maintenance.
Yes.
And it's important because, that's just like you said, that's where a majority of their life is.
Yes.
And the other side is, there was a phase in my business where I worked like 100 hours. Right? 100 hours busting a bunch of sales, but then you're dead.
Yes.
Right? So like you're going 100 miles an hour, but now you have to optimize for that life. And you have to know what that life is like, and you have to make it feel like it's easy. And then when it feels like it's easy, that's when you ramp up again. And then you just slowly change the thermostat.
Yes.
When a person maintains a weight for me for about 3 weeks after they do their weight loss, right away, I'm like, oh, this guy has it forever.
They got it.
Right? And it's almost more important to measure that for me than what their weight loss was.
Yes.
So I'm following up every week. I was like, how's the weight?
How's the maintenance going?
How's the maintenance going? And it's not me trying to get them back. I want to make sure that like this is
it's sunk
you're
in.
Doing this right.
They get it. They understand it. I think another thing we could do, Royce, is we could take a stand for people too. I have clients that come to me and you start asking questions. Well, yes, I've been trying to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. And how long you been doing this? I had this. I was like, I'm not going to put you in a deficit. We're going to live in maintenance for a little bit. And they're like,
and they freak out.
They freak out.
Right?
And mind you, I've been doing this a very long time. So I don't have to take everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm learning to have a voice and stand up for my clients when maybe someone never told them. They just went from trainer to trainer or themselves habit to habit to habit, or that didn't work out for them. Like, look here, maybe we spend a little time at maintenance and let you sustain for a little bit before we go into a deficit. And like I said, I get it. If there's young trainers out there or people watching this, that's hard to do. But I think if people then can learn the value and see that you held them to their highest and had their best interests at heart, you can take them a long way. I'm doing that more and more. The older I've gotten, like, no, I'm not, no.
Like, we don't have to keep losing weight.
Yeah, we don't need to be in this perpetual cycle. And I'll literally, because I'm pretty straightforward, it's like, you don't need me to mess up your metabolism or to mess up your weight loss goals anymore. You're already doing that. How about we stop cutting for a while and build some other habits and let you get used to understanding what you're consuming, what you're doing, how your activity level, and what your life, what you would like it to look like. And then we can start cutting again. And I've actually had success, believe it or not.
I think it's more successful that way, too.
I do, too.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like you when I was younger. It's like, I just want business. I promote weight loss. It's like, oh, this guy's been cutting for blah, 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 off and on. For like 3 years, I've been trying to get these last 7 pounds off. I'm like, bro, 7 pounds over 3 years? Like, you should be able to do that in like 6 months. Like, I'm not trying to be a wise ass. Like, on the slow end, like, 24 weeks, you should be able to get 7 pounds off. Like, that's 1 pound a month. That's like 0.25
really
each week.
Slow,
That's really slow. Like, I'm good with numbers. Maybe we need to just then hold the maintenance a little while. I know this is important to you, but clearly there's some hurdles that are getting in the way that's been stopping this for the past 3 years. How about we go to maintenance for a little bit?
Yeah. Let's manage that.
Let's manage that first, and maybe you can shift your mind and you can understand and see the value of it. And then once you live in maintenance a little bit, it may be easier to knock these 7 pounds out now in like 16 weeks. And you're like, how did I do it so fast? It's like, because you stopped repeatedly doing the same thing over and over. We shifted your mindset, and now you got that weight off, and now you understand the value of being in maintenance and weight loss, and you can have both.
It's very interesting because I'll have that in forced maintenance.
Yeah.
We call it like refeed.
Yes.
And then they de-stress a little bit, and then they lose more weight on accident.
Yeah.
because they put so much
What is this
pressure on the
sorcery?
scale. They're like, "What are you doing to me?"
What is this sorcery, Royce?
Yeah, you know You're like, "What did you do?
Like, whoa,
Did you
whoa, whoa.
change anything?" It's just the de-stress. It was like, let's just relax. And
Yes.
like the intention is just to add muscle.
Yes.
And it's so funny that I have some clients that start to lose more weight and they're like, oh, and then they just surrender.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to them because there's not a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
Or you don't hear about it a lot, or they haven't been able to do it and see it for themselves. So you're trying to tell me, bro, you just added more calories and I lost weight?
Yeah.
But I thought I need to be in a caloric deficit.
Yeah. There's that hormone pound. Yeah. It just throws people off.
Yeah, it throws them off. You know, or you will literally get, I'm in a caloric deficit, but I'm not losing. Well, then you're not in a caloric deficit.
Yeah. Your metabolism's probably so
or
low.
You're probably underestimating your activity level and you're consuming more than you think. The bites, the licks, the taste, not measuring things. Those things add up.
Right.
And the further down the line
your
you
kid's
go.
Chicken nugget.
Yeah. Bro, that is real.
That's real.
Chicken nuggets, fries, your kids' food. Like all that stuff goes unaccounted for. You know, it's like, I just had a couple extra fries.
Yeah.
Really? A couple?
You have 3 kids.
You have 3 kids. So that could be like, but those things are out of sight, out of mind. Those things happen so fast with people.
You don't,
Active, busy individuals, they don't even realize it. And you're like, oh, or you had an outing and we've all been to social gatherings. I don't know about you, but I can graze like the best of them.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
It starts off healthy. The carrots,
yeah,
the broccoli, and then somebody's like, bro, these cookies are fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next thing you're one cookie in deep.
Exactly.
And then you're into the dip. And then you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
F it. I'm all in. I'll start back over tomorrow. So I don't think people realize those small things that they do, or me just having associates or friends. I go to my best friend's business office and he's got candy and stuff. I was like, he goes, I can't stop eating. I was like, well, you're the boss. Just don't have it around here.
Yeah.
That would alleviate.
Yeah. A bunch of it.
A bunch of it.
Okay, let's shift to the deficit life.
Okay.
Because I think bodybuilders, and you're an IFBB Pro, I think you guys are the masters at this. And it's really interesting because deficits are tough, because I've done a few deficits too. Yeah. Like, what are the pros on deficits? And what are some of like the stuff that no one talks about, the cons on deficits?
Well, the pros on being in a caloric deficit, obviously you're dropping body fat. You're seeing your body change. You see more lines. You look more aesthetically pleasing. And who doesn't like to see their body change? So it's a huge driving force.
Yeah.
The cons are you're hungry.
Yeah.
You're tired. You're fatigued. Your hormone levels really drop off because now you don't have enough fuel going in.
Yeah.
Your sleep kind of goes to crap.
Yeah.
Your libido goes to crap.
Right.
Emotionally, like you're kind of on edge because now you're not fed and hungry. And I like to use an analogy. It's like a hungry baby. A hungry baby isn't happy.
Yeah.
Adults are better at supposedly managing their emotions, but a lot of times we aren't.
Yeah.
So most people look at a deficit and they only see the plus side of you looking a certain way, but they don't realize what it took to get there. But then they also don't realize that when I prep for a show, it's only 20 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I say only 20 weeks, that's 5 months.
Yeah.
But it's a short window of get in and get out.
Right.
Like I'm very strategic with my shows or my cuts.
Yeah.
Get in, get out, and then I go back to my maintenance, or I'll make sure there's another show close by because I don't want to stay in a deficit any longer than I have to.
This is why I'm like, I have mad respect, because 20 weeks of a deficit is equivalent to just like going into hell for a little bit, right?
But then I looked at it like this, Royce. I'm a big numbers person.
Yeah.
I've done 10 shows, and if we've done 20 weeks, that's 200 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm 47 years old. I've lived, like, if math is right, over 5,000 weeks.
Yeah.
So those 200 weeks is such a small blip. So I just see it as like, people are like, how do you do it? It's like, it's only 5. It's only 20 weeks out of how many weeks in a year? It's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be competing for the rest of my life. I've only been competing 7 years of my life, and I'm getting really close to the end. So there's some value in saying, like, this is what I get to do for 20 weeks. This is a phase that I'm in. I'll execute to the highest level, and then I'm on the other side of this. But it is difficult.
Yeah. And then there's this perception that you're year round.
No.
Like,
I mean,
the photos stand there for a long time,
people
right?
do that,
Yeah.
but if you literally ask them, if you had a chance to interview them, I'm sure most of them, if they were being honest, would tell you they're not happy or comfortable.
Right.
But then what most people then see, you made a great point, especially with social media and pictures.
Yeah.
You take a lot of pictures when you're stage lean.
Oh, for sure.
And then you put them out there.
Yeah.
So people tend to think that that's what you look like all the time. Like, no, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like, it takes everything I have like 2 weeks out to even just want to talk to people, to even move. Like, my energy is so focused on having enough energy just to get through my training sessions, because I still have to train hard to hold on to as much lean muscle, which is another thing that people don't talk about. When you go into a caloric deficit, if it's done too fast, you can burn lean body mass.
Yeah.
So all that time you spent putting on that muscle, if you do it too fast, you could drop lean body mass as well as fat mass.
Yeah.
When the whole goal, I just spent 20 months trying to put on 2 pounds of muscle. And I potentially, if I do it too fast or don't do it right or don't keep my protein high or still lift heavy enough, I could then burn it off. All for what? Nothing. It's like going to work and not getting paid. Who does that? We call that a volunteer.
Yeah.
You know? So there's a lot that people don't really know or doesn't get spoken about. I try to keep it real with people. It's like, you're not always, they're not comfortable.
Yeah.
Especially like getting stage lean. But then I also have to equate it to, just because you're getting stage lean, this person's lean, if they get that lean, whatever that may be, that's the leanest they've ever been. So that's uncomfortable as well.
Right.
So people may look at, well, I didn't get 6%. Well, bro, if the 14 has ever been the lowest you've ever been in your life and you were accustomed to being in the 20s, that's uncomfortable for you.
Oh, yeah. That's different.
That's your uncomfortability. This is my uncomfortable. Don't say, well, it's got to be really uncomfortable at 6. No, it's really uncomfortable at 14 if you were at 25 before.
Because it's a different person. Yeah.
You're a different person. So the uncomfortability, like, I'm not up here on this pedestal. So your lowest that you get to, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Listen, if you're trying to lose weight, but you're just frustrated because you just can't seem to see any results, we would love to help you out. Now, we've been helping thousands of our athletes over the course of a decade by crafting personalized programs that are not only sustainable, but also effective. Now, if you're ready to transform your health, click on the show notes below, book a call with one of our coaches. We'd love to help you out. Now back to the show. Peace. Yeah, it's so good. I remind people of what a deficit is like. So I have bigger brothers. I was like the smallest one out of all of them when we were younger. And I've never been to a beach before. And there was a scenario where I forgot my own trunks.
Yeah.
So I had to use my brother's trunks. So I'm rocking my brother's trunks, and he's a much bigger guy than me. And then the tides come up, right? And then the waves are real.
Yeah.
The waves are real. And if you've never been in a strong wave, they're going to pull everything out. So as soon as that tide came out, my pants were gone, right? And that's what deficits are like.
Yes.
So like when you're in a deficit, everything is going to be exposed. Meaning like your emotions, the things that you don't have systems for. And when I tell people when we go into this deficits, it's like, hey, listen, like every emotion that you didn't have coping mechanisms for is going to show up.
Yes.
And that's where I'm going to be coaching you on as best as I possibly can. Right? Is it going to be your anxiousness? Like is that your method of coping?
Yes.
Is it going to be the times when you feel like you're physically tired or mentally tired? That's when you're coping. Like that's why deficits are so difficult, because all of those demons that you were hiding away from eating donuts, they start to shift up. And that's where I'm like, mad respect for people that are getting underneath 10%. Because I remember getting down to like 8% where I'm like, who is this person? Right? This is an evil version of Royce that I've never really experienced before.
I mean, you make a great point with the demons. It's like, if you're going to do this, then you have to understand what's coming with this. And that's why I really promote, unless you're morbidly obese, like we get in, we get out with your deficit.
Right.
Are you sure this is what you want to do? Are we going to commit for these 16 to 20 weeks?
Yeah.
So we can take your time. These 16 to 20 weeks, obviously there's life. You're not going to be 100% perfect, but can you execute to the highest your ability? This is our start. This is our end. Once we get to this end, we're not doing it any longer. And then we go to your maintenance, because if you have this indefinite, then it can just linger.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's no there's no end game. And I believe that's where a lot of people get themselves in trouble, even in dieting in general. It's like, okay, how much? Bite off chunks. Even if you have a lot to lose, like, okay, your goal is 50 pounds. Let's not look at 50.
Yeah.
Let's get off this next 20 first.
Right.
And these next 20 to 24 weeks. Let you live at maintenance a little bit. And then we'll think about, okay, how do you feel? What is your next goal? I know your end game was 50.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's knock off this next 10. Well, I think I want to start cutting around the holidays. Really? Because based on the habits you've shown me the past 2 years, that's probably not a good idea.
It's not a good way to ride that wave.
Yeah, not a good way to ride it. How about we ride this wave a little bit after the start of January?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. I was like, yeah, that's why you got me.
Yeah.
Because I pay attention to the patterns and habits, sir, because I've been working with you, ma'am, or sir. Like, it's probably not a good idea. Well, I want to go on a deficit. Didn't you say you're going on vacation next week?
Yeah.
You probably don't want to start that then, because if it's not already ingrained in your lifestyle with your family and habits, you're going to be miserable and you're probably not going to succeed. So how about we start a deficit when you come back?
Right.
And they're like,
it's just muscle building from here until then.
Till then, we'll just keep pushing, but then we can focus on when you can actually commit the time to being in that deficit so you can get in and get out.
That's so good. Get in and get out.
Yes.
All right.
Be very strategic.
I want to talk about hormones because at 40, things start to change. The sleep pattern is down, libido is down, testosterone is down. What are your thoughts about, one, hormones as we start to age, but also supplementing with hormones to bring it back to normal? What are your thoughts
we
about
obviously know, it's proven. Hormones do change and decrease. We're talking about males. Your testosterone levels will decrease. Your libido does go down.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Right.
I believe they do play a factor. They can be an obstacle, but I don't believe they're the end all be all.
Right.
So I'm all for TRT, hormone replacement therapy, and doing these things. But once again, they're not an end all be all. So then what I'll ask men, then are you still willing to change your habits?
Exactly.
And then it kind of stumps them. I was speaking to a group of men last year about this. Guy was like, I want to take that. I was like, but you just basically told me you don't want to eat better, train, or de-stress yourself. So this really isn't going to do much for you. It may give you a little bit of a boost, but you're not willing to change any of your other habits to then benefit that boost. So I'm all for it. And obviously they do play a factor, but I think just like I disconnected from the metabolism thing, I kind of disconnect from the hormone thing as well.
Powerful.
Because we then use it as a crutch.
Right.
Okay, we know it's an obstacle.
Right.
But you can get over that obstacle with better habits. Or you know what? I'm big on doing blood work. You mentioned that before. Go get all your hormone levels, your blood, get a full workup and see where you are first and foremost. And see how you're still functioning. And then we can start implementing tools and executing there. Don't just think because I get on this, it's going to be the end all be all. I'm going to feel so much better.
Right.
When you're not willing to change your nutrition habits, you're not willing to cut back on your drinking. You're not willing to go to bed at an earlier time. You're not willing to de-stress. You're not willing to set boundaries with people. Like, this ain't going to change any of those other factors or help benefit you unless you start implementing all these tools as well along with this. And that's where I'm big with people and men.
That's so good. And I'm huge with that too. It's like, oh, if I had unlimited time and I can take all these hormones, I'd be a professional athlete too. I was like, no, dude.
That's not how that works.
I was like, no, you have to be, one, pretty amazing in all your habits. And a lot of times you have some God-given gifts.
Yes.
And then some of those guys will take even more stuff and then you just sets them apart. Yeah. Right. So it's very, and again, I agree with you. I think a lot of times people fixate so much on their hormones. I was like, let's get some low level lifts. Like, how are you sleeping? Because I think your testosterone can drastically increase by another 300 if you're just getting adequate sleep.
Adequate rest.
Right. And then it's like, okay, let's go look at your blood panels. It's like, yeah, it's pretty low, man. Like, you've done so much damage over not sleeping as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That even just like another 300 or 400 or 600 in your testosterone will drastically change your everything. And I've seen that. At first, if you asked me 20 years ago, but then now I'm starting to see more 40s and 50s. And dude, their testosterone is just like ungodly low and they're doing everything right. Like at first we've created those habits and nothing is happening. And then when these guys get into these TRTs, they're different people.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because they have good habits as well to help supplement that.
Exactly.
You know, and that's like my biggest thing with supplements. Supplements are great,
Yeah.
but have you nailed the core values first? Are you making sure you get enough protein, you get enough sleep? Are you actually training before you go adding all these things? They're a supplement to the mandatory things. So I'm
Right.
all for TRT, but
Right.
then, sir, are you willing to eat better?
Yeah.
Help your nutritional habits. No one expects you to be perfect.
Yeah.
Are you willing to give up drinking multiple beers multiple times a week?
Yeah.
Because that does affect your cortisol and your sleep. Are you willing to get off your phone and go to bed at a certain time and then maybe do some things that can then get you to calm down at night before you go to bed? Are you willing to get up and then go for a walk after dinner? Well, I don't have time to get steps. Yeah, you do, bro. You just told me you watched the basketball game the other night. Put the game on your phone and go get steps. Or, I mean, if you have an excuse, I have an answer.
Right.
And I do believe people are going through things, but like, come on now, I'm all about solutions. So if you're willing to do all those things, and I think there's a value. I told the guy last year at the seminar I spoke to, I said, if you're not willing to change any of your habits, don't waste your time going to get TRT. And he looked at me, he was like, I was like, I'm just keeping it 100 with you.
Yeah.
Because you're not willing to change any of these habits. I'm not saying changing these habits are easy.
Right.
Stress, anxiety is real. I'm not saying it's easy, but then what tools can you implement to then handle your stress? You think it's just going to go away? Highly unlikely.
No, not at all. Sometimes it amplifies it.
Yeah. Like, are you willing to, like, because I mean, we had meditation and stuff and all this stuff. Are you maybe to implement some of these other tools that these practitioners have brought? Because basically, you just sound like you got a bunch of excuses to me and you want everyone to figure it out for you.
So good. Okay.
I was like, I can't do it for you. I can give you the plan, but I can't execute it. And a plan is only as good as its execution.
So good. We can talk for hours.
Yeah,
but I want to, because we're in two different fitness sports.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm in functional training, CrossFit. You do a lot of bodybuilding, but I like to ask this question just in general. Okay. You have three exercises you can do only for the rest of your life to get in the physique that you want.
Okay.
Right. Muscular, pretty toned. What would those 3 exercises be for you?
I'm thinking about the average person and their activity level. If they can some type of squat,
okay,
some type of deadlift, I would prefer a trap bar deadlift, a little easier on the spine,
okay,
and pull-ups.
Okay. Why back squat first? Or squat in general?
Any type of squat, because it's huge lower body, compound movement. It can be done multitude of ways: hack squat, front squat, you know, all the different bars. And you're going to use a lot of muscle fibers. And so I love the fact that it's going to be able to tax your energy system as well.
Yeah.
Then you get to like a deadlift. I prefer trap bar just because it's a little easier on people's spine.
Yeah.
You can pull. I think it's being able to pull weight and move, but then keep the core tight, keeping the chest up.
Yeah.
Lower body, powerful movement as well. And then a pull up, because it works pretty much everything.
Yeah.
You know, your back, your biceps, and to have the strength to be able to pull your own body weight, I think is very important for most individuals. And when we take it to the fact that if you can probably do a pull-up, and let's just say you're in your 80s, you probably can get yourself up and off the toilet or off the couch or off the floor.
Yeah.
And so then by doing a back squat or some type of squat, you get balance and coordination, because it takes a lot of balance to hold weight on your back.
Yeah.
To do a trap bar, to pull weight. Once again, you need balance, you need coordination, you need strength. To be able to do a pull-up, you need a lot of upper body strength to do pull-ups. Now, the amount, I don't know. But even just be able to do a hang, to hold yourself for a decent amount of time is huge. So those would be my 3.
That's so good. I relate 100%. You know, because people will ask me that all the time. And here's what's cool. Like, my programs are very relatively simple like that.
Basic.
It's like, I got to build your squat. I got to build your deadlift in some format. And if I can get you to do something that's overhead, very similar to like a pull-up, right? And if I can get someone to just do those 3 basic movements, and then eventually excel in them in some form, that's it. That's all we have to do with your fitness. And now it's just variants around it.
Yes.
I think people overcomplicate it.
Bro, you literally just took the words out of my mouth.
It is
yes, they do.
unreal.
We overcomplicate it with the mental gymnastics. And then always ask people, emulate the people that you look up to.
Right.
And I was at a seminar when I was much younger, and somebody asked this exercise physiologist from Arizona State, like,
Yeah.
I want nice big biceps. And he was big into using rings like male gymnasts. And I was
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense because male gymnasts have nice arms and triceps. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
who would have thought? Just do
Right.
what others are doing. So,
Yeah.
but the point is, like, keep it simple, stupid. We overcomplicate. And I
Yeah.
believe social media has made it that way because you get on, you see some guy doing a squat with a couch and a chair. And when you're like,
And he's
all right,
twisting along.
yeah,
the
well,
movement and shit,
that's cool for you, bro. But
yeah.
first of all, I don't see the value in that. And most people can't do that.
Right.
And there is something to be said about doing the monotonous, tedious stuff over and over again. Once
Mhm.
again, I will equate this back to sports. Tom Brady has a throwing motion.
Yeah.
He's executed that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think he had such a high pass efficiency rating? Because it was the same step, the same follow through
Yeah.
over and
Over
over
again.
and over. But in this fitness space, and I get it, we're all different personalities. People want to have fun or do the fun things. Well, all the fun things may not yield the results that you want, regardless of your goals or sustainability for life.
Yeah.
And then there's also, like, I'm a former athlete. I love what you guys do because I came from doing hang cleans and squats and stuff. I don't do them currently because I'm a bodybuilder.
Right.
I'm fixing my body for that. But
Right.
I would like to get back to that. But I don't see the purpose of me jumping on a 42-inch box anymore
Right. Yeah.
because I'm not playing football anymore. I feel that I still could,
Yeah.
but there's no need to when I can just be safe and go to a 36 and know that I still see the value in that. I think sometimes people overcomplicate things and want to do too many things without learning to master the basics first.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. Like, learn to master. Like, a lot of the things I do are very basic and simple.
Yeah.
Bro, I literally followed the same training program from 2020 after I turned pro as an IFBB Pro to 2023 when I got on the Masters Olympia stage. Same program. And my physique looked totally different from 2020. I did a show in 2022. I did a show in 2023. The same program. Now I have some leeway in the exercises because my coach knows I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Whether I'm doing a machine lateral raise or dumbbell laterals or cable lateral raise,
Yeah.
there's one thing, keyword in there, lateral raise.
Right.
It's really not that.
Yeah.
I switched from front squats or back squats to front squats because of my shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
And I got results. And people are like, how did you do the same thing or why could you? I said, so if you have this job and you're making more money every single year,
Yeah.
would you switch jobs like that? All right, maybe you got bored,
Yeah.
but I'm a simple person. I'm getting results.
Mm-hmm.
I went from the age of 43 to the age of 46 and I got better with the same workout.
Right.
Huh.
Mm.
Why would I do anything? And the only reason why we changed it after Master Olympia to this year was we were like, all right, these are the things I get to work on now that I got feedback from the judges. So then it changed.
Mm-hmm.
I competed in August. My training, I have 2 different blocks. I'm on week 19 of the first block,
Yeah.
and I'll be on week 19 when I get to the second block. So you do some simple math. I've been doing the same workout for 37 weeks or
Right.
training blocks.
Yeah.
And I've gotten stronger, more muscle within those basic movements.
Yeah.
And then there are movements that Byron enjoys as well.
Mm.
So I let my coach know, I like this movement. I like this
Yeah.
movement. And then the judges said, I need this. I feel I need to work on this. What's your feedback? And this is my opposing coach's feedback. Okay,
Yeah.
we tabulate that. So he goes, squat variation. He doesn't care if I front squat or back squat.
Yeah.
Long as I get enough data consistently
Mm-hmm.
so we can still progress within the RPE or reps in reserve and
Yeah.
I'm PRing and still pushing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all that matters.
There's so much value in the boring, and people underestimate that.
Yeah.
Because when you do something that's the same over and over and over and over again, you're going to get good at that movement.
Yes.
And if you're getting good at that movement, you're going to move more weight. And move more weight
Yes.
means more muscle.
Mhm.
But if you keep switching the movement every other day, you're going to get okay at all of them.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes worse because you're just like, what is this again?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, like, when I'm programming for someone that's on a personal level, I pick like 1 or 2 movements that I'm just going to try to jack up as high as I possibly
Yes.
can. Right. Because now we know what they can do on a linear basis.
Mhm.
I understand kind of where their dysfunctions are. And that's like where I kind of change their programming just to
Yes.
make sure they're more optimal for that.
Mhm.
But people they just they scroll through social media, they pick that workout, and then they do that workout, and then the first weight is like, I don't really know what weight I should use
Mhm.
yet. So they wasted a set,
Yep.
right? And they're like, oh, maybe this is good now.
Yep.
So, and then they're never really growing one movement,
No.
and then they just kind of they get stuck. I was like, just pick one or two.
That you enjoy.
Yeah. You can throw some like toppings on there
Yeah.
just to make it spicy, but for the most part,
Keep it simple.
squat,
Mhm.
do some pull-up variations, do some deadlift trap variations, like get good at that,
Yeah.
and then build around it. And man, it's like,
Well, and then it just flourishes from there. And then you see the value, or you see how important it is to continually do these same movements over and over. So then you get better and better and better at them. And then one movement for you may not be a great movement for me because I don't execute it or you don't enjoy it. So I had an online client and they were like, I hate Bulgarian squats. So you're gonna program those? Like, well, why would I? You just told me you hate it.
yeah,
I'd be much better served asking you what you enjoy, but then I can get more out of you. But then I can also say, okay, now you enjoy that exercise. Now we know about how much weight you can use. And now I want 2 reps in reserve only. So if we're doing sets of 8, if you're able to make it to 10, all 3 sets, then that next time you go do this movement, you better go up in weight.
yeah,
So now we have measurables instead of just randomly or forcing you to do something that you don't enjoy.
yeah,
I love the gym, bro.
yeah,
But even in your realm, I prefer hang cleaning over power cleaning.
right,
So if you program power clean, sheer pride, I'm going to do it
right,
because I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let myself down. I want to let the class down.
right,
But in my mind going, I really would prefer to hang clean.
right.
But so if you ask Byron, what would you like to do this movement? I want to hang clean.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you 100% every single one. And I'll walk out of here happy as hell too. The other one will be like, well, I did that, but it's not really my favorite.
Yeah.
And I love the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, love it.
And that's what you want to try to create an experience for that.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to tell you Byron's secret, why he has re-signs for all of his clients all the time. And I do this and I teach this to my guys as well. And it's applicable too. If you're just a regular athlete, try to do this on your own, is at the end of your session, ask yourself, what was my most favorite part or most exciting part?
Mhm.
So when I ask my clients that, I take a mental note down, I write it down, and then I apply some version of that, and then I do it again the next day.
Mhm.
What was your favorite part? And then you're ultimately designing an hour that they just purely love.
They enjoy.
Yeah. It's hard to skip that.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of times people just follow workouts and then they're blind of the stuff that they really like. So it's like, I guess I'm just going to do that again.
Mhm.
I guess I'm just going to do that. You can design a program where you're just addicted to it. And I think that is like the path, especially when you're just trying to lose your first 10, 20, 30 pounds.
Yep.
Ask yourself at the end of the session, what was the stuff that I really enjoyed and liked?
Yep.
And then build a program that kind of stimulates that. I mean, there's going to be some parts where you don't like the stairs. Maybe you have to burn body fat.
There's parts of it, yes. You're not going to like everything.
Yeah. So I think like designing 80-20.
Yeah.
80% make it fun. The 20%, all right, I got to work my core.
Nah. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what is your overall goal? Like, no one really likes lunges, but they are really good exercise for lower body.
Right.
So if you're someone telling me, like, I really want to build my lower body and, squats is one of your movements, maybe leg press is one of your compound movements, how about we try, some lunges?
Yeah.
You're not going to like them, but if this is the only thing you didn't like,
yeah,
I gave you 4 or 5 other things you truly enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
So do me a square.
Yeah.
Just, you're not going to like it. I don't like everything my coach programs,
Yeah.
but most of it I do enjoy. But
That's
also see the value and see the results that I'm getting. Then
Yeah.
I'm willing to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always like eating right,
Right.
but I do like when my blood markers come back better.
Exactly.
I don't always want to do a lot of things, but then I realize this is what I get to enjoy. Also keep my word to myself. I set a standard for myself. And so I'm not delusional to think that I'm going to enjoy training every single day,
Mm-hmm.
but I get to do it. And that's what I'm going to do. And I see the value in the fact that I'm blessed that I still can move it the way I want to.
Mm.
And then I take a step back and even that and go, wow, a lot of people can't say that. And here I am, bitching and complaining about Like, man, I don't want to load up this bar today.
Yeah,
Somebody doesn't have that opportunity to do that.
that's
So
true.
why am I not?
Yeah.
Okay, I may not like it, but then once I get going, then all that kind of goes away. Like, this is just what we got to do. We execute. And I keep my word to myself, because if I don't, then on the back end, I'll be beating myself up even more for not executing at a high level. Because I believe I'm 100% and I accept responsibility 100% for the results in my life
So good.
in every aspect.
All right, I want to end with this question
Uh-huh.
because you have one of the most ultimate physiques, and I'll probably put a picture somewhere here so you can see what this guy's photos look like.
Mm-hmm.
The question I want to ask is your life better because you have this physique? You know, a lot of times people have this perception. It's like, my life is way better now.
I can honestly say yes.
Okay.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially. I
Okay.
can be straightforward with you. There's an air of confidence, not just about the gym, but
Right.
it's about life. And then it's continued growth. So my growth in the gym,
Yeah.
then there's growth in my mental, socially, how I present myself to the world as well.
Yeah.
The amount of confidence that I have when I walk into a room, all
Yeah.
that's built around these habits. And I
Yeah.
believe it should go all hand in hand. So it's not just in the gym.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, Royce, it's not about just me. It's about helping others see their light as well.
So good.
You know, so
Okay.
I'm big on confidence and self-esteem. So I feel that when I walk in a room, I'm not here to dim anyone's light, but I'm not dimming
Right.
my light for you to shine. I'll
Right.
bring you up,
Yeah.
but if you think I'm going to dumb myself down for you, you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
My goal is to help build you up. I'm here to help others build their light as well.
So
And I
good.
developed this mindset. A lot of people don't know this about me. I used to stutter until I was like 14 years old. So I had a speech impediment.
No way.
So
Okay.
I didn't talk at
Mhm.
all. I just played sports. It was the way that, you played sports in our era growing up.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s and 90s, like, people loved you. So I couldn't talk. I really didn't have much to say. I'm a smaller guy. I'm only 5'4",
Mhm.
so I didn't grow up in the best neighborhood here in town in Las Vegas. And so not being able to talk, it made me very aware, and I paid attention. But I also realized it didn't matter what I did. Someone had something to say. So I might as well just love myself and be me.
Mhm.
I wasn't dark enough. I couldn't talk. I was a jock. But then I was also a nerd because I did pretty well in school. I didn't grow up in the best neighborhood. So people always had something to say. I was like, well, if I don't feel good about myself, waiting for someone else to help me out with this,
Yeah.
shit, sure as hell ain't going to help it. So then as I got older, and then once I did gain my voice and begin to speak, I then had to learn my voice. I was a
Yeah.
little over the top,
Yeah.
But then also I feel I'm going to carry this into my life and help my clients and my family and friends. And when I walk into a room, I walk in with confidence.
That's so good.
You
I
know?
like how you attach that because people will just assume the physique is there and it brings them one or two things, but you've
No.
changed. I do the same. Like, people ask me, I was like, is it better there? I was like, it's 100 times better
Yeah.
because I'm using my physique to do more.
Yes.
It's into my business. It's in my relationships. It's into all of my clients. I think it's a major ingredient to
Yeah.
it. Like, there's something cool about bringing other people to kind of where you are.
Yeah.
In some form or fashion.
Yes.
Right. And that's really what truly makes it. Now, is there still problems in this part of life? 100%.
Of course.
Right.
But I
So,
also try to let people know I'm just like you.
yeah.
Just because I look like this, you think I don't have problems?
Yeah.
You don't think I struggle with stuff? You don't think I'm working on things?
Yeah.
Like, even whether it's just basically in the gym, like I'm human just like you.
So good.
My goal is to continue to grow and become a better person in life and, leave an impact on the people I'm able to come in contact with about loving yourself, being confident and carrying yourself to the highest. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not you? And I know it takes time, progress. We're not going to always feel that way, but I'm big on all of those things
So
because
good.
I believe that you get to lead by example and people do pay attention.
Mm.
People pay attention. I know we're all caught up on our phones and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
people notice when someone walks in the room. I don't care what anyone says. Like,
They
people
do.
notice that. I know I do.
Yeah.
And I know when sometimes, and you may walk into a room, 10 people may like you, 3 may not. But I did nothing to offend anyone.
Right. So good. All right, Byron, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Byron Ross Fitness,
Okay.
on TikTok at Byron Ross Fitness, on my Facebook at Byron Ross Fitness,
I'll put all of
IFBB
them. Yeah.
Pro. On my YouTube, Byron Ross Fitness.
Yeah.
I own a small gym here in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's BFit Personal Training and Sports Performance. We're located at 4275 West Bell, suite number 8, 89118.
I love it. So guys, if you guys like this episode, make sure to share, make sure to subscribe, especially if you got some nuggets here that you typically don't get. Like we talked about the maintenance, we talked about what deficits are like, the pros and cons. People won't tell you, right? So hopefully you guys got a lot of value, and I'll see you guys the next episode. Peace.